Who wants to be a real estate agent? Number 1. A legally enforceable agreement under which two parties agree to do something for each other is known as A or N. A. Escrow agreement. B. Legal promise. C. Valid contract. D. Option agreement. The answer is C. Valid contract. Number 2. A person drives into a filling station and tops off her gas tank. She is obligated to pay for the fuel through what kind of contract? A. Express. B. Implied. C. Oral. D. Voidable. The answer is B. Implied. Number 3. A contract is said to be bilateral if A. One of the parties is a minor. B. The contract has yet to be fully performed. C. Only one party to the agreement is bound to act. D. All parties to the contract are bound to act. The answer is D. All parties to the contract are bound to act. Number 4. A seller gave an open listing to several brokers, specifically promising that if one of the brokers found a buyer for the seller's real estate, the seller then will be obligated to pay a commission to that broker. This offer by the seller is A or N. A. Executed agreement. B. Discharged agreement. C. Implied agreement. D. Unilateral agreement. The answer is D. Unilateral agreement. Number 5. During the period of time after a real estate sales contract is signed, but before title actually passes, the status of the contract is A. Voidable. B. Executory. C. Exculpatory. D. Implied. The answer is B. Executory. Number 6. A 17-year-old New Jersey resident signs a contract to buy a home for himself and his wife. The contract is A. Voidable. B. Valid. C. Fulfilled. D. Unilateral. The answer is B. Valid. Number 7. A broker has found a buyer for a man's home. The buyer has indicated in writing his willingness to buy the property for $1,000 less than asking price and has deposited $5,000 earnest money with the broker. The buyer is out of town for the weekend and the broker has been unable to inform him of the signed document. At this point, the document is A or N. A. Voidable contract. B. Offer. C. Executory agreement. D. Implied contract. The answer is B. Offer. Number 8. Consideration given in exchange for a sales contract might take the form of A. A down payment and note. B. A purchase money mortgage. C. Cash. D. Any of the above. The answer is D. Any of the above. Number 9. A buyer makes a written offer to buy an apartment building for $900,000 with the closing to be on December 30. The seller, who has income tax concerns, signs his consent to sell for that amount, agreeing to all her terms, except that the sale shall not be closed until January. At this point, who is free to walk away and forget the whole thing? A. Either seller or buyer. B. Neither seller nor buyer. C. The seller. D. The buyer. The answer is D. The buyer. Number 10. The seller told the buyer she will leave the washing machine, but instead took it with her. The written contract made no mention of the washing machine. The buyer has no right to complain because of the rule of A. Partial performance, B. Novation, C. Undue influence, D. Parole evidence. The answer is D. Parole evidence. Number 11. New Jersey real estate brokers and their salespersons may fill in sales contract forms for A. 1 to 4 family properties, B. Any residential properties, C. Residential properties and vacant land, D. Residential and industrial property only. The answer is A. 1 to 4 family properties. Number 12. A broker must deposit funds received as earnest money deposits in a special separate bank account within A. 3 days, B. 5 business days, C. 7 days, D. 30 days. The answer is B. 5 business days. Number 13. Buyers have a 7-day period in which they may cancel sales contracts on A. Certain condominiums, B. All 1 to 4 family dwellings, C. Any commercial properties, D. Leased property. The answer is A. Certain condominiums. Number 14. If a real estate sales contract does not state that time is one of the essence and the stipulated date of transfer comes and goes without a closing, the contract is then A. Binding for only 30 more days, B. Novated, C. Still valid, D. Automatically void. The answer is C. Still valid. Number 15. A buyer has a contract to buy a commercial building but would rather let his friend buy it instead. If the contract allows, the friend can take over the buyer's obligation by the process known as A. Assignment, B. Substantial performance, C. Subordination, D. Moral consent. The answer is A. Assignment. Number 16. A suit for a specific performance of a real estate contract asks for A. Money damages, B. A new contract, C. A deficiency judgment, D. A forced sale or purchase. The answer is D. A forced sale or purchase. Number 17. In filling out a sales contract, someone crossed out several words and inserted others. To eliminate future controversy as to whether the changes were made before or after the contract was signed, the usual procedure is to A. Write a letter to each party listing the changes, B. Have each party write a letter to the other approving the changes, C. Redraw the entire contract, D. Have both parties initial or sign in the margin near each change. The answer is D. Have both parties initial or sign in the margin near each change. Number 18. The buyer's offer in writing to purchase a house for $120,000, drapes included, with the offer to expire Saturday at noon. The seller's reply in writing on Thursday, accepting $120,000 but excluding the drapes. On Friday, while the buyers are considering this counter offer, the sellers decide to accept the original offer, drapes included, and state that in writing. At this point, the buyers: A. Must buy and have a right to insist on the drapes. B. Are not bound to buy and can forget the whole thing. C. Must buy but are not entitled to the drapes. D. Must buy and can deduct the value of the drapes from the $120,000. The answer is B. Are not bound to buy and can forget the whole thing. Number 19. In New Jersey, a valid contract for the sale of real estate must include A. An earnest money deposit. B. An adequate description of the property. C. The signatures of witnesses. D. All of the above. The answer is B. An adequate description of the property. Number 20. The sales contract says the buyer will purchase only if his wife follows up and approves the sale by the following Saturday. The approval by the buyer's wife is A. Contingency. B. Reservation. C. Warranty. D. Consideration. The answer is A. Contingency.